Hey, Mr. Harper here. So I just figured I will talk to you guys about our assignment today. So in 6 hours, fourth hour, sorry, for the sixth week, we have our space rock planning guide. And so basically what we're going to do, we're going to create a Google drawing about that we're going to use in a game we're going to make. Normally I would just go in and just do the tutorial and show you how to make a game. But I think it's really important we go all through the steps of actually designing an app from scratch. And so we're going to use a game. And so I'm gonna allow you to change anything that you want about the game, but right now we're gonna do the sketch. And this sketch is kind of like a way for me to get the idea from inside my head and put it on paper. That way I can explain what we're doing, and that way you know what we're doing and what the code's expected to do. So you're gonna make a new Google drawing. So we can just go to our Google Drive, hit New, and then hit New Google Drawing. Or you can always just search for Google Drawing. And so I'm going to call this let's call it our space game planning guide. And it's good to kind of give it a good title. That way we know what it is. But it's our planning guide, and we're going to use this as a guide to plan our game. So what we're going to do first, I'm going to use some shapes to kind of draw the screen. So if you just click on shapes, then you can go to the second one, and you can kind of give you that rounded rectangle look that looks like the face of a phone. We can always go through, you can change the color, make it look however you want it to look. For me, I'm just going to be plain and boring. This is how it's going to look. And next, we're just going to add another shape. We're going to do a rectangle. And I'm just going to draw a rectangle on here. And this rectangle is actually going to represent a component. So I'm going to double tap to type, and I'm going to type in canvas. And this is going to be our canvas component. This is a new component. We haven't used this, and so we're going to be learning how to use the canvas component too. You're basically using the canvas to make games and animations in Thunkable. All right, so after we have our canvas, we're going to add a button. So I'm just going to go back to shapes and draw a rounded rectangle again. And this is going to be my start button, so I'm going to type in start. And I'm going to center my text because I want it to be centered. Okay. And the last thing I'm going to add up here is the text tool. And it's just going to say score. Make it 0. I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of this. If I can get it highlighted, there we go. Let's make it bold. We'll resize this to make it where it's one line. Then I'm going to kind of center it. All right. And normally we don't want to spend a lot of time on art for our game. You'll get some time to do that if you. I will work on that in the next lesson when we're getting everything set up. But you can just use primitive shapes. You can go shapes. You can draw a triangle to represent the player. You can draw a circle to represent your enemies. Or if you really want to kind of get into it, you can always just go insert image, and you can search the web for some images. I'm just going to go primitive shapes just to make it simple. So I'm going to go shapes, and let's go with our triangle first. And this triangle is going to represent our player sprite. I'm going to put it right there. And then I'm going to go a circle with an X through it. There we go. And this is going to represent my enemies, right? There we go. Just like that. So we're just going to keep it very simple. You can resize these any way you want. And like I said, you can always search. So if you were going to do like a rocket clip art, you could always use one of these and just kind of throw it in. It's kind of up to you. I know that's what I did when I was teaching the class live. I just used the actual rocket, but that's up to you. But this is just a rough drawing. It doesn't have to be exact right now, okay? So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to use the text tool, and we're going to actually kind of go over some overview of this game and what we want and how this game is going to work. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of type game overview / summary, and I'm going to center this. And then we're going to kind of talk about how this game is going to work in the gameplay. So I'm going to line this back to the left. And I'm going to start using some numbers. Let me close out of this, put some numbers in here. So the first thing is the player is going to drag the rocket with their fingers. Okay, that's the first thing. So you'll be able to drag this sprite with your finger at the bottom. Let me see here. The rocket will automatically shoot lasers. The enemy sprites will fall towards the player sprite. And let me see here. The game ends if the enemy collides with the player. You get a point each time you shoot your enemy, or shoot the enemy. So that's pretty much how our gameplay is going to work. You can rearrange these things. You can just kind of drag and highlight. I just want to do the phone. I'm going to use my arrow keys to drag everything over to the left. Then I can resize this to make it look a little bit bigger. And I'm going to put some space by hitting Shift and Enter. At the end of the line, Shift, hold down the Shift key and hit Enter. And that'll give me some space in between here. Shift and Enter. Shift and Enter. Okay. And I'm going to make this bold and underlined. Sorry, my kid's on the phone with her cousin, so she's being kind of loud, but it's okay. All right, so I'm going to hit Enter twice to get rid of those numbers. I'm going to put this back to the center, and we're just going to list our components. It's a good idea to list the components that we need for this. I'm going to make sure it's not bold and centered and put it back in the left. I'm going to add my numbers back. And so the components that we're going to need, and hopefully you can kind of figure this part out, but we know we're going to need a button. We know we're going to need a label. We know we're going to need a canvas. And the part that's not mentioned that you don't know is we're going to need a timer too. We're going to use the timer to actually shoot our lasers. And you can actually do the same thing to make your lasers go to your enemy and try to shoot towards your player if you want it to. But we'll talk about that more when we get to it. So once you have this assignment here, I believe if you go back to Google Classroom, you can view the assignment and you can click Add. And you want to go click Add, and then I believe you want to go Google Drive, and then you want to select your drawing and add that here. The last thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to click this link, make a copy of the project. So it gives you a copy, and you're going to want to actually add and set up the user interface based on your sketch that we just did. So in our sketch, the only thing you're going to really be able to add will be the buttons, the canvas, the label, and the timer. Don't worry about adding your sprites because you don't know how to add sprites yet to your canvas, but we'll show you that. We'll work on that and work on making either making our own sprites or adding our own sprites here in the next lesson. But you do want to get that set up. A quick way to do that would be once I make my copy, just add my button. Let's add my canvas. Just click and drag. Make sure they're all in the right area. Yep. Let's add our label. I'm going to drag my label straight up to where it's above the canvas. There we go. I'm going to change the text here to say score 0. I can click on my button. Let's change this text here to say start. And then let's go ahead and search for our timer. Let's add our timer to our screen, just like that. So real simple, easy way for us to add our project, get everything set up. Like I said, we will add our sprites and whatnot to the stage. I'll show you how to do all of that in our next lesson. But you definitely want to make sure when you get this done, click Thunkable, get your Space Rocks copy, click the three dots and hit View Project Detail page. And you want to copy this link and add this link to the assignment also. So you'll go back here, click Add a Create, click Add Link, paste the link in, and turn this in. You want to actually have this submitted today before we start class, because on Monday, because we're going to want to get this done very quickly and have this game created. All right, so that's it. If you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Goodbye.